This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are detailing everything that happened during Day 5 of San Francisco 49ers training camp. But first, I want to remind you to like, share, and subscribe to the show. If you're listening on the audio podcast platforms, give us that 5-star review. And if you want to see your San Francisco 49ers play in 2026, use that promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And with that out of the way, let's talk about arguably the most impactful news we got over the last 48 hours pertaining to the San Francisco 49ers. And no, it is not Deebo Samuel re-signing and getting on the field again. It is that Paraag Marate, the mastermind behind nearly every Niners Shanahan regime level extension, is no longer going to be in charge in the front office. He is stepping down to take over a more hands-on approach with Leeds United, leaving the San Francisco 49ers behind. And this can be a good or bad thing. The positive could be that this streamlines the negotiation process for the San Francisco 49ers, although they don't really have anybody right now that needs an extension because they've drafted so poorly. That could essentially come into play down the road at some point in time. It could also make the negotiations easier when they do get into those talks with players. We have heard a lot of times, mainly Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, even George Kittle, Nick Bosa as well, that sometimes there are things that are said the way the Niners are going about things in previous negotiations, that the tactics of Paraag Marate have rubbed players the wrong way. Sometimes they're more forgiving, like Deebo Samuel. Other times, like Brandon Ayuk, they linger and they fester and they cause the ultimate downfall for a player, or at least play a part in that downfall. So having Paraag leave the Niners, yes, could be a good thing. Could have the Niners or give them maybe the ability to get deals done faster. But in that same breath, it could also hurt the 49ers, because when you have somebody that iron fist over the Niners financials and working with John Lynch and Jed York, when you remove that person, you may then find that an overeager John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan do deals that in retrospect maybe don't look very good. And those deals still exist within the current regime, but now that Paraag's not there or going to be there in the future, you could see those numbers increase steadily over the next few off seasons. And on top of that too, you could see San Francisco maybe lose out on deals where right now they're focused on winning the contracts, winning the deals. Without Paraag being in there, they may have to pay $5 million more, $6 million more on certain players. And with how many injuries they have, that can go a long way in the season for the 49ers. So there is give and take there, but the Niners are indeed losing somebody who has been a mainstay, a trusted right-hand advisor to John Lynch and Jed York, which again can go one of two ways. We are obviously hoping for the more positive outlook of his departure. Wish him the best of luck with Leeds United, but this is a big internal move that I don't want to downplay. This is not some random assistant, some coffee making, intern somewhere. This is somebody that is in those negotiations, talking to players, talking to agents, talking to John and Jed, and is very hands-on in the process of handing over money, signing guys to contracts. He's the person that negotiated the Brock Purdy, George Kittle 2 extensions, Fred Warner's recent deal, and so on and so forth. So that's a big loss for the 49ers, and we'll see how they play things going forward. I believe that Kwesi Adolphe is taking over in some capacity in Paraag Marate's role with other hands at play as well. So it's going to be kind of an all-hands-on-deck approach to replace Paraag, but a big loss nevertheless. And with Kwesi taking over in some capacity, the next step in his, I believe, inevitable promotion to general manager once John Lynch says enough. We have a question in our YouTube chat from Lori Matthews. Cameron says hello. Lori says hello. Hello to both of you out there watching wherever you are. Lori asks this. But if they knew this was in the works for a bit now, do you think they have an idea of which direction they're going to go as far as replacement? I don't know if they know. I don't know if they knew this was in the works. You would assume there was some communication at hand between Paraag and the Niners. I'm sure it wasn't an overnight decision to do this, but I don't think San Francisco exactly has a one-for-one replacement in line. I think they're going to go at things steadily. They'll probably, knowing that they're not going to have any big deals to do anytime soon. Free agency's over. The draft is over. Like, they're essentially done doing deals until draft or until the trade deadline. So I don't think they're in a rush to replace him. I think you will see some people that are already in the front office we have no idea about move into his role at some point in time. I don't know if they're going to have as much say in negotiations as Paraag did, but certainly they want to find somebody to balance their books, if you will, when deals are to be done. That said, we have some house cleaning because San Francisco made some transactions over the last 24 hours. This morning, this being Sunday, August 2nd, they signed running back Khalil Herbert in the wake of Jordan James' broken ribs and Kalen Black leaving practice on Saturday with some sort of injury to his lower body. They also signed defensive lineman Titus Leo, that in response to the plethora of defensive line and edge rushing injuries this team currently has. It's been 5 days, and they are already banged up to hell. So they're already looking for replacements and guys to bridge the gap between now and preseason, then the regular season play. So Niners already bargain bin shopping early in August. Then we have the Niners waiving Eli Apple, the cornerback, and also waiving Mikhail Kamara, the UDFA Indiana standout. He injured his knee at practice yesterday and was carted off the field. We're not exactly sure if he was going to return. It looked pretty bad. All indications were that is some sort of MCL, ACL related injury. He didn't return, got waived the next day, so you read the tea leaves and assume his season's likely over. Now, Kamara was somebody that was always going to be on the roster bubble, always somebody that was going to be a replacement level player. Maybe you see it sometimes. This year he'd be a practice squad elevation, but wasn't going to make a massive impact for the San Francisco 49ers. Nevertheless, he's not going to make an impact for everybody. There is some sort of silver lining here with the fact that he can, if not claimed by a different team, revert back to San Francisco and remain on the 49ers roster for another year. And it could be kind of a stash of Kamara, so they can have him next year if he does return fully healthy at that point in time. It's like Steven saying we're muted here, not muted on my end in any capacity. So Steven, maybe it's on your end, but we're going to continue talking about the injury report because it is long, it is lengthier than a CVS receipt already. The big injury news as of yesterday was wide receiver Ricky Pearsall is indeed going to have season-ending PCL surgery, and has been placed on IR to make room for the returning Deebo Samuel. It's a blow. It sucks. You're essentially getting 3 years, and maybe, as we've learned from doctors online and those who've been out in the medical field discussing the injury, reporters and such, that this could be career-threatening for Ricky Pearsall. So hopes and prayers go out to him. Hopefully he can heal and get back very quickly. I know he's gutted. John Lynch said so himself. So I'm really hoping Ricky Pearsall can find his way back onto the football field, but it's not going to be in 2026. It is a 9 to 12 month recovery with a slimmer chance he returns to 100% than if you were to have an ACL tear or an MCL tear. So big risk ahead for Ricky Pearsall, and big hopes and prayers to him in his recovery. That's not the only receiver injury, though, because Dejon Stribling did not practice yesterday, that being Saturday, day 5 of training camp for the San Francisco 49ers with hamstring tightness, not a strain. So some sort of sigh of relief there. And hopefully the substation can stop looming in the backfield during the highlights we see on Twitter and on X and on Instagram. And if you're there, every highlight, substations, they're reminding you that it's having some sort of an effect, whether mentally or actually physically. But Stribling didn't practice yesterday, hoping he can get back soon. Niners are off today, I believe, so we'll see if Monday or Tuesday marks the return for the team's 33rd overall pick. He was really good for the first 4 days. Day 5, obviously not on the field, so eager to see if he returns to his standout self that we saw the first 4 days once he returns, hopefully early in the next week. The defense, though, that is where the injuries lie, and it's a laundry list. It is very long, mainly on the defensive line, a place last year San Francisco saw a ton of injuries too, mainly to Mykel Williams and Nick Bosa. Now already on top of Mykel and Nick Bosa not practicing in full capacity yet, Romello Height, who had cramps and gave everybody oh my God, season-ending scares. I think on day 2, he left yesterday's practice with an elbow injury. Not sure if it was a stinger, if there's anything serious related there, but worth noting as we enter into the first week of August. He left practice on August 1st. We'll see if he returns the 3rd or the 4th. Continuing on defense, Keon White, who looked really good so far through 4 days, looking like one of the mainstays as kind of the in-betweener type defensive lineman on this Niners defensive line. He pulled up with an adductor injury during practice. He left. He didn't come back, so bad news there. Then Cam Sample, who is recovering from a knee injury during last season. I guess he has some knee soreness, and he didn't practice at all yesterday either. So the Niners are down 3 defensive ends, not including Mikhail Kamara, who was waived after needing to get carted off the field. They're really thin. They're down 3 defensive ends. They are without Nick Bosa, who is still only doing individual drills. And then, of course, Mykel Williams, who has yet to practice in any capacity thus far. So really, they're down 5 edge rushers. And they signed one today for a camp body, but not exactly where you want to be in August. Obviously, some injuries are bigger than others. Some are smaller than others, but not exactly what you want to hear from the San Francisco 49ers. And it's still getting worse because running back Kalon Black left practice on Saturday, moving gingerly towards the end, took a few reps, left, and did not return. So hopefully it's not too serious for him, but thus the signing of Khalil Herbert to hopefully fill out his role behind Patrick Taylor Jr. And good news, which that's rare to come by when talking about Niner injuries, but Isaac Orendo, he injured his pec during the OTA sessions. It looks like he's on the mend and nearing a return pretty soon. He, Guerrero, Michael Williams, CJ West, and Grayson Halton were all seen doing individual drills and some sort of sideline work on Saturday. So Guerrero looks like his return is on the horizon. Meanwhile, Michael, CJ West, and Grayson Halton continue to do work on the sideline, building up towards their much anticipated returns. With that out of the way, the injury stuff, Paraag Marate leaving San Francisco, let's talk about the big news on the actual practice field. That being Deebo Samuel is once again a San Francisco 49er, and Deebo Samuel was really fun to watch on Saturday. You talk about a bolt of energy. When Deebo walks on the field, you look. When you hear the name Deebo, you kind of get a smile on your face because of the player he once was in San Francisco and the hope that he can still be a factor into this offense in 2026. But he walked on the field, was greeting all of his new teammates, a lot of his former teammates. He dapped up Fred Warner, and it looked like a really good time for Deebo Samuel. He was having some fun out there on the football field and doing his thing nonetheless. And it was really, really, really fun to see him back out there. He belongs in red and gold. He belongs on the San Francisco 49ers. And I'll tell you this dude is in fantastic shape. If you're on his social medias, you know this by now, but there's a difference in, oh, I'm in Instagram shape, I'm in social media shape. Then you see that guy with pads on and the helmet on, and you go, this is not the same Deebo Samuel health-wise that was on the San Francisco 49ers in 2024. This is not a guy who his weight fluctuated 20, 30 pounds throughout the season. This dude looks as slim as he's been since 2022, 2023, when he was advocating for a new contract. And after he told the media that I played like crap in 2022, and came back in 2023 and played much, much better. And I can argue this may be the best shape Deebo Samuel's ever been in. And that's kind of a cliche at this point in the offseason, but it's true. Now, does that translate to a better Deebo? I don't know. The hope is that it does, but he certainly looks thinned out. The beer belly, the gut is gone. He looks like he's ready to go. He looks like he took, being a free agent in the elongated offseason he had personally. He looks like he's ready to go out there and earn his next, probably last contract in the NFL. This dude literally got on a flight on Friday night, flew to San Francisco, took his physical that morning, and then practiced. Like, this dude wants to be a Niner, wants to be back out there. Talked lengthy about him returning to San Francisco after practice. And it really felt like Deebo was at home. And that's why you bring him in, right? He missed no beats in the offense. He was a full participant in individual drills on Saturday. Took about 10 reps during team drills, but that seemed to just be, let's work this dude in slowly because we know what he can do. Like, there's no reason to rush him into team drills and have something bad happen, right? So, but he was there. Didn't take a single rep off during 1v1s and individual stuff. So Deebo looks fantastic. It's one practice. How much can you make from that? Not much, but it's enough to make you a little more intrigued if you already weren't. I think it's testament to how much work he's put in, to how he may have been offended by still being a free agent. Again, I think when you take 32 teams not wanting to sign you until August 1st, until an injury occurs, that usually rubs a player the wrong way. He did apparently turn down an offer from the Colts to join the San Francisco 49ers. He would have been behind Alec Pierce and Josh Downs out there in Indy. So I think coming to San Francisco, where he's comfortable, knows the offense, knows the head coach, has had plenty of success in years prior, played a factor into that. But still, worth noting that the Niners weren't the only team out there vying for Deebo's services, and he chose them again. And I think he's eager to put 2024 and 25 behind him and prove a lot of people wrong. And we did get some clarity on what his usage will be because, look, when the Niners thought they were going to have Ricky Pearsall and Mike Evans, and then there was the idea that we can add Deebo to this in a small role, you kind of thought, what is this? How is this going to work? Is Deebo okay with that? But clearly, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan talked to Deebo about his role in the offense. And I'm sure that's changed a little bit since Pearsall is going to be out for the year. But John Lynch told the media, we plan to use Deebo Samuel as a kick returner, as a wide receiver, as a punt returner, as a running back at times. So they're going back to Swiss Army knife Deebo Samuel. I don't know exactly how much he'll be in the return game, especially if Stribling continues to, once he's healthy again, prove that he belongs in the NFL. And if he continues to stand out in camp, maybe that makes him the Z wide receiver throughout the year. And that's kind of the hope, that the young stud stands out and proves himself. But, Deebo being a veteran, Shanahan relies on those guys a lot. So that's up to those players to determine what their play. But we saw a lot of that in practice on Saturday. We saw Deebo not returning kicks or punts, but in the backfield during screens, as a wide receiver, lined out wide, lined in the slot. So you're already seeing a versatile player plugged into an offense that really needs some versatility and explosiveness. So they're certainly going to use Deebo as they see fit, which is why you bring a guy like him in. So it seems like they've talked about what they want to do with him with Deebo, and he's kind of signed off on things. And I think he's in a spot where he's just like, give me the football. After complaining about touches in 2024, rubbed myself and I'm sure many people the wrong way, and then goes to Washington last year, and it wasn't a bad year by any means, but, wasn't Deebo's best by far. I think he's in a spot that anytime he gets the football, which he's hoping is any way possible, that is a chance to showcase his skills that he still possesses at the age of 30, entering into a one-year contract. So I think Deebo's eager. There was a few plays on Saturday where it looked like prime Deebo again. Like I've said plenty of times already in the show, it's one practice, so you can't make much of that. But he caught 3 passes from Brock Purdy on Saturday, took a deep crosser and got some yak afterwards. The crowd, oohed and awed and said, there's Deebo again, right? Then there was a screen pass he took for about 20 yards downfield. And again, it's stuff like that where you go, okay, if Deebo can do that 2, 3, 4 times a game, you're going to be in business. Like, you are going to have an offense that, if that's your number 2 or 3 receiver and Deebo is kind of an ancillary piece to the core of your offense, you are in a very good spot if you are the 49ers.
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
But unfortunately for San Francisco, for as fun as it was to watch Deebo out there, as fun as it was to see Deebo rocking the 1-9 again, a very nostalgic sight, their offense really struggled on Saturday. It's the first time where nothing really worked. Rhythm was hard to come by. It was like a drummer that was off track, that was off beat, and everything else just could not get into motion. And so, there's a couple fumbles. on snaps, mainly from Mac Jones, a lot of missed throws, overthrows, and some drop balls to by wide receivers. So it was not the best outing for the Niners offense. We have a question here from Lori Matthews, I think, regarding Deebo Samuel. She asks, are you concerned that defenses will know they like to use him on those bubble screens and then shut it down? You were seeing a little bit of that in 2023, so obviously there is going to be a need to shake things up. I think, and this is one area I believe that many of us, I'm sure you too, Lori, whenever you saw Deebo Samuel in the backfield, you said, well, he's getting the football. And so then you had all the defenses rushing in from the box, blitzing, and the ball was going nowhere in 2023, and especially 2024. So they're going to have to find ways to, spice things up. You can't just run Deebo out of the backfield as the RB2 and expect opposing defenses not to adjust. That's their job, right? So I think there's ways to do it. I think having Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel both operate in the backfield will help. I also think San Francisco, in their move towards more of a drop-back passing game, will ultimately free up Deebo more on those screens and the end-arounds and the stuff in the backfield. So that's up to Kyle and Kubiak to figure out, but I would like to believe in an offense that proved last year they didn't need a player like Deebo to win games, that plugging him back in without the need to be reliant on him will actually prove to be more or prove it more worthy, if you will, of his presence. So happy he's back. They need him back right now. But going back to the offense and how it struggled on Saturday, this was Brock Purdy's worst day of camp so far, but when you're good for 4 of the 5 days, you'll take that. Obviously, you'd rather it be great all the way through, but it wasn't Purdy's best day. He's 8 for 16 on the day, so 50% completion rate if you follow those things. That is by far his worst thus far of camp. And I think today, or Saturday, the biggest culprit of his struggles were overthrows. We talked about Purdy being a little more conservative in his approach for the first 4 days. That was not the case on Saturday, which doesn't shock me that Purdy is being a little more wild and testing things downfield, pushing the football around. But he was overthrowing receivers left and right on Saturday. He overthrew Kyle Juszczyk, who was streaking down the sideline after beating Dre Greenlaw on a deep ball, overthrew him. Then he did it again to Christian McCaffrey on almost the exact same play towards the left sideline, overshot him too. Another play to Jordan Watkins, somewhat classified as a drop. I would say Purdy high pointed the football a little too high for Watkins' liking, couldn't bring it down. And then he had one deep shot to Mike Evans, who threw it just ahead of him off his fingertips. So about 4 overthrows from Brock Purdy, which didn't help the fact that if you hit those passes, you're 12 for 16, and in a game-like decision or game-like setting, maybe it's touchdown, maybe it's a 45-yard pass, and you're in field goal range, you're in the red zone. So obviously those things will come. You can maybe say a lot of this was with Pearsall being out and Stribling being out and Deebo being plugged back in, and there being some smaller receivers in place that maybe Purdy isn't too comfortable with yet, mainly being Watkins and Cowing, and relying on Mike Evans and Demarcus Robinson to be your 1 and 2 with guys on the football field or off the field. There's kind of a mixed bag of, you have your chemistry problems so far. That's what these days are for in camp. But also you want your quarterback to hit those throws because the quarterback shouldn't have the problem. And Purdy's in the prime of his career and everything. But I'm fully expecting Brock to get back to who Brock is and hit those throws once game time comes, because it isn't often Brock overthrows a wide receiver. So good to see the arms working pretty well. But a rare sight from Brock on Saturday. He did have a pretty couple good throws mixed in there. It wasn't all bad from Purdy. He had a really great throw to Jake Tonges in the flat, seed right to him, is buzzed right by Jair Brown's outstretched hands. Brown looked like he was in a spot to pick it off and maybe get a pick 6 out of it. Purdy zipped it through him and it was like, oh, okay, Purdy's zipping the football around. He's got that rocket arm he doesn't often show, that rarely has on display, which was good to see. Purdy usually has the arm strength to zip the ball past defenders playing more in the box from the flat. So I wouldn't say vintage Purdy, but got the ball out quick, past the defender, rifled it to Tonges, who ran in for a touchdown. So that is one of the bigger highlight plays from Purdy on Saturday. Then they also connected earlier in practice too. So good to see Kittle, with him being off the field. Purdy and Tonges are flashing some chemistry, and Tonges really is a good receiving tight end, and I hope they use him accordingly with Kittle unhealthy and also healthy in 2026. We also got Purdy throwing a touchdown to Luke Farrell, who, funny enough, also beat Jair Brown in this practice. So Purdy liking his backup tight ends on Saturday, maybe more of a safety blanket after having some struggles hitting some wide receivers deep downfield, but nevertheless 2 touchdowns on the evening from Brock to Luke Farrell, who's had a really bad camp so far, and Jake Tonges, who's been a nice, quiet presence in camp. Moving past the quarterbacks, though, let's get to the good and the bad from camp. Kind of already alluded to the bad, that being Jair Brown. He gave up 2 touchdowns to essentially backup tight ends. It's not really a great sight, but besides that, let's get to the positive, the good from day 5 of training camp. How about Dominick Puni? In a year where Ricky Pearsall is going to have no impact, where maybe you're hyped for Renardo Green, but that remains, a question as to how does he look in year 3. Gurendo's kind of on the outside looking in, Cowing in a similar position, and even Malik Mustafa is currently injured. It's like, okay, how does that 2024 draft class look? Puni has been, by far, the best player in that class, even as today stands, but in camp so far has looked like the best player out of that group as well. Part of that's by default, but also by Puni's play. They are purposefully limiting him and how much he's out there, probably because of how he got hurt early in training camp last year and never really recovered, and how it impacted his season. So trying to keep their starting right guard on the field for a longer portion of the season is always a good idea. And they're acting as if they want to do that. But he's looked fantastic. The body's in great shape. The way he's in his limited reps won them with relative ease. He stonewalled Osa Odighizuwa and Sebastian Valdez really early in the day, and it was like, okay, like Puni's good. Like, this is an offensive line where you've seen Trent Williams take 1 rep and then be done for the day because he's Trent Williams. Cole McKivitz has operated in a limited capacity, but Puni has also looked really good in his small rep count too. So Puni's looked really good. Really high hopes for him in 2026. I don't want to say Pro Bowl in the future, but I think Puni has the making of that. We will obviously wait and see how he looks when the regular season rolls around. But there was one small blemish on his performance, because while he stonewalled Osa Odighizuwa early in practice, Odighizuwa got him back later, blew by him for a would-be sack. So there's some give and take there, but otherwise a really strong first 5 days of camp from Dominick Puni. Some other good signs from wide receivers not named Stribling, Evans, or Robinson. Jacob Cowing didn't have a great beginning to camp. The number stuff leads to speculation as to what's going on with you on the roster around cut down day, but he's looked more comfortable the last few days, mainly on day 4 and 5 of camp. Beat Upton Stout for a touchdown during 1v1s, and then also cooked. He's out there filleting Jack Jones on a rep where you just said, "Whoo, Jacob, by God," I almost had the JR pulled out of me and some Oklahoma barbecue sauce. Like, oh my goodness, man. which again, Jack Jones is fighting for a roster spot too, but Jack Jones has also looked really good in camp. So good for Cowing. You have to be able to win the reps against the guys you're up against. You can only play who's in front of you or who's on the other side of the sideline with you. So for Cowing, it's good to see a couple of nice flash plays, nice big plays where you go, that stands out. Because if we see that, the coaching staff certainly sees that too. Another standout has been Wesley Grimes, the UDFA. He's built similar to that of Dejon Stribling. Bigger dude, faster guy, probably a UDFA stash once roster cutdown day comes. I'm not really expecting UDFA receivers to make the roster unless other guys get injured. But with the absences of many wide receivers so far, Grimes has looked really good in 1v1s. Notably, he beat Darrell Luter Jr. On a deep ball during 1v1s. Would have been maybe a touchdown, but likely a big play. But Grimes has looked better. Now, is that an indication of Luter Jr. struggling, or is that Grimes winning? Probably a little bit of both, as most highlight plays are. But just want to point out a young player that is likely not going to get much recognition. Give him it when it's there. So Wesley Grimes, Jacob Cowing, good on you for day 5 of training camp. And hopefully that continues. We'd always love to see one of these young, unexpected guys to come out there and blow us away, right? Moving on to the defense, though. We've already mentioned how many Niners defensive linemen are out. Bosa, Michael, Grayson Halton, CJ West. A lot of edge rushers are out there on the sideline because they can't get on the actual field because they're all so hurt. But when that happens, that is when you get UDFA's young players that are on the roster bubble getting opportunities to stand out and maybe put their name in the hat for a roster spot when it's all said and done. And we've gotten that from 2 UDFAs this offseason, Bryson Easton and James Thompson Jr. Mainly this is going in the direction of James Thompson Jr., but they've gotten their fair share of reps against the 2s and the 3s when normally they're against the really bad 3s and never getting torque with the 2s. And in some places they're with the 1s when they're rotating defensive linemen next to Osa Digazua. It's been Sebastian Valdez and at times Keon White, but now he's hurt. And so you have seen some of these young guys mix in there with some of the better offensive linemen San Francisco has. But I think Thompson has looked good. Like, Thompson looks like there's an NFL player in there somewhere, whether it's this year or next year. There's something to work with. And he's out there beating guys like Brett Toth, who is fighting for a left guard, center, right guard spot. Carver Willis, who is this year's 4th-round draft pick, right? So he's out there beating him. He's beating Nick Zakel, who is Brock Purdy's roommate. I don't know what else to say there, but as somebody San Francisco clearly likes enough to keep around, Thompson's having some fun with those dudes. And Toth beating him is probably the more impressive feat of the 3, but James Thompson Jr., it's a name to look out for, not say a name to look out for a roster spot, but is somebody that with more reps and mainly during preseason, I think we may be pleasantly surprised what he can do. Kind of how we liked Sebastian Valdez last year. We're like, oh, that guy, there's something there. He's got something. James Thompson Jr., just watch out for him, and hopefully he can stay healthy because there's opportunity knocking at the door. That said, we do have some positional movement on the offensive line, or more clarity as to who's playing what as camp moves forward. Carver Willis has been getting reps at guard and center, none at tackle, which is what we assumed would happen in the NFL. And then Enrique Cruz Jr., so both of the Niners' rookie offensive linemen, he has been getting reps at tackle, but Chris Forrester said they're going to move him to guard and maybe create some versatility there. He's somebody that is more built like a guard. I think he belongs more at guard. He is a project player that has been getting a lot of reps at tackle. I was shocked about that, but I think moving him to guard would give San Francisco about 4 or 5 guys deep at competition, which is always what you want on the interior, knowing that you're only probably keeping, about 3 guards and 2 centers, and that center can usually play guard too. So, good to see young players getting to play multiple spots on the offensive line to see if they can niche out a spot on the depth chart. Then finally, on the secondary continues to look fantastic. And that's not a big surprise, but the one thing I am surprised with, and maybe I shouldn't be because it is so early in training camp and this may change as things progress, but the Niners defensive backs are getting their hands on the football. And some of that's bad throws, like we talked about Brock Purdy today. Mac Jones also was not good on day 5. A lot of errant throws, fumbled snap. It just looks like he's kind of, how do I word this? Something's just off. I don't know if it's timing or he's just not playing well, but Mac Jones does not look like the sharp, accurate, drop back, boom, balls out quarterback we saw last year that ran this offense so well in Brock Purdy's absence. It's early, so I'm not going to put too much into that, but worth noting early on day 5 of camp. But I had Lenoir having 2 more pass breakups. I had Jack Jones, Upton Stout, both got their hands on the football in some way on day 5. Even Renardo Green, who did get beat on consecutive receptions to Demarcus Robinson and Jordan Watkins during move the ball drills, also got a PBU. So when you're doing the math here, you're looking at about, 5 PBUs by the Niners secondary in 1 practice. Again, it's early and quarterbacks are trying new things and it wasn't the offense's sharpest day, but it's a good sign. We talked about that unit being the secondary being the best one on the football field so far through camp. And I think that remains through day 5. So a good 5-day stretch of practice where the secondary has looked really, really good, mainly Lenoir, who I think is going to remind some people this year of why he's so good. And then to end today's show, a Kyle Shanahan update. I think he'll be back in no time. He's rocking a mustache, has his sunglasses on, probably hiding a little bit of the scar he's got, but he's out there. He's out there for the majority of practice on Saturday. I think, when we got the news of the accident and all the things that happened to him, the broken nose and the ribs, the lacerations, we all said, oh my God, the concussion, like he could be out for a month. Is week 1 in Australia up in the air? I don't think so. Concussions can linger, but it doesn't seem like that's been the case right now for him. And I think in him being out there running more practice, I think, give it, if not at some point this week, I think by early next week, you'll see Kyle Shanahan, fully formed back out there running practice for the Niners. And, I guess he's in all the meetings, he's running film and everything. So it's not like he's not been hands-on behind the scenes. It's just more so publicly. He hasn't talked yet to the media since camp started, and I think we'll get that soon. Again, maybe not this week, but I'm sure shortly we'll get Kyle Shanahan full capacity, which is what you want, right? I don't know exactly what day the Niners preseason game is. Should probably look that up if I'm going to bring it up right now, but quickly here. Niners preseason. If the Wi-Fi loads. Let's see. They don't play till the 13th. So Shanahan's got 11 days to get back out there and be at 100% or close to it. So in 11 days, I'm sure Shanahan will be on the sideline doing his thing. So not really anything to worry about there, but a lot of injuries are piling up. San Francisco's probably going to add some more edge rushers soon just to fill out camp and not be reliant on all their top dogs to play. You want to give Osa Digizua some time off and not be reliant on somewhat hobbled players to be out there, especially so early in camp. So I think you'll see more acquisitions soon. Not big ones, not talking about Max Crosby or Joey Bosa, but you'll see them add more players in camp. I would say look out for Leonard Floyd. Was in Atlanta last year, was a San Francisco 49er 2 years ago. That dude is the definition of an Iron Man. I mean, I give you much in production, but he'll give you high effort, and he's never hurt, ever. So in a world where it seems like every Niners starting edge rusher and the second string and the third string outside of Samuel Kawanu is hurt right now, Leonard Floyd could be a name to watch just to get them through camp and maybe give them some more competition as things go forward. But that was day 5 of training camp. What do you make of Paraag Marate exiting San Francisco's front office? Are the injuries concerning? I think they always are for Niner fans. And what do you make of the secondary out there doing gangbusters against the Niners offense? Do you have concerns for the Niners offense? And what do you make of Deebo Samuel back in San Francisco? If you can, drop a like on the video. Leave us that 5-star audio podcast review. Thank you to everybody in the YouTube chat tonight. Hopefully you enjoy the content coming your way as training camp continues. You can follow us on social media throughout training camp at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And you can use promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERS. ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. That said, my name is Sterling Bennett. Enjoy your Monday. The weekend's over. Get back to work. And as always, until next time, stay faithful.